Cool. Good turnout already. This is excellent. All right. So everyone's traveling today, we established. We're all hoping that our internet is top-notch and solid for the day. Just give everyone a second to come in here. Hmm. Okay, we got a pretty good group. I think I'm not gonna burn too much time. Yeah, welcome everyone. I'm Dave Bowman. I'm the Managing Director of Partnerships at XYPN. And this webinar is we're trying something new today. So this is our 10th year doing the AdviceTech competition at XYPN, but we've never unveiled the finalists live. So we just finished all the voting. We had a ton of applications this year. It was a pretty big job to get through them all, but a lot of really cool companies. And so we finalized who was going to be a finalist at the AdviceTech competition live in San Diego. I'm joined by Amy DeTolla. Amy is the founder of Aureus Advantage. They're a transformation partner for wealth firms navigating M&A, platform evolution, and strategic growth. She's a venture investor and advisor in AdviceTech platforms through Thicket Ventures. And Amy's an industry expert that helps firms navigate growth, including through strategic use of technology. So she really has a ton of domain expertise. And then also inviting Jason Pereira here today. Jason's a man of many hats. Michael Kitces introduced us and describing Jason as the Kitces of Canada, which I've always really liked. That's how I think of Jason. He's a partner at Woodgate, financial planning firm in Canada. He runs a Substack that I read pretty religiously called This Week in AI for Financial Advisors, all around advice tech and wealth tech expert. So welcome, Amy and Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, excited to have you both.
Excited to get going.
Totally. Yeah. So just a little bit of context. The Advice Tech competition again is in its 10th year. This is a pitch competition where we take applications, we choose 6 finalists. Those finalists come to our conference and they get to, in 10 minutes, pitch their new product. And these are companies that have been around for less than 1 year or have less than 1 million ARR or annual revenue, doesn't have to be recurring. So there really are kind of brand new, innovative companies in the advice tech space. We talk about advice tech. What is that? The theme of our competition is innovative tools for financial advisors, using the Michael Kitces term. Those are folks where the advice that they give is the product and the value they deliver. So really tools that are geared to support independent fee-only, planners who are providing advice as their primary value proposition. Again, this is our 10th year doing this, and last year and this year we've opened it up to 2 different types of awards. So there will be a panel of expert judges. Again, this year Amy was one of our judges. Last year, Davis Janowski with wealthmanagement.com. Craig Iskowitz is an advice tech expert, and Michael Kitces is returning as a judge. Maybe Amy, if you could just give us a little bit of a vibe of what last year was like. What was your experience there?
Yeah, actually, I was lucky enough to be there the year before. My venture partner, Justin
Right?
Wiss, was a judge, so I was able to kind of peek into it real time. But last year, the energy was, I mean, like the thing is, what people have to understand, if you look back and look at who were finalists and where they have gone, and I think we could talk a little bit about that to be a finalist is, it's not a bad thing because a lot of these firms have gone like a really far place. And last year, I mean, the energy was amazing. I think we all kind of agreed on Water Lily, which I actually had tried out. I've tried out since then. So I think it's really amazing. And I think what's interesting is having the people that are part of the network and seeing it live and participating, the best in show and being able to kind of put their voice into it too. And then having it all come live and them on stage, I think is just super exciting. So I'm really excited to be part of it. And, Jason and, we got a lot of the OGs here on the tech side with Michael and Craig and Davis. So I'm excited about this year.
Cool. Yeah, Jason has also is returning this year as part of our initial screening group. So there's a group of judges that does the screening of in this case, it was almost 60 applications. Each is a 10-minute video and a write-up. And so it's a pretty big job. Jason has always turned those around in like 24 hours, which I really, really appreciate. Not easy to do.
And I
Uh,
wasn't involved in that, so this is new.
It helps. It
This is
helps when you
brand.
know a bunch of them
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you do it all in one sitting, it really is a speed round of like what is coming. You start to pick up themes pretty quickly, which I think will
Yeah.
be fun to get into. Actually, Jason, if you don't mind, since we're just going to be focused on the finalists, before we jump in, are there any themes that you did grab from looking at those 60 different applications? Like, what does kind of the
Yeah.
whole applicant body tell you about what's coming?
100% there are. And I think that it's one I've seen, like there's a couple of underlying things in the industry that are happening right now around the stage we're at in the AI adoption curve. And the one in particular that was resonating here that I was kind of confirming my thesis was I like to say we're hitting the end of the beginning on the AI adoption cycle. You know, the generation one AI implementation was the three kind of out of the box use cases. So you had like better querying, better data extraction, better report generation. Like those three things were kind of like the early things we could see from day one with AI that, hey, this is where we can go with it. So you've seen companies born who were native to that do a really good job. You know, Slant is one of the companies that I've talked about before and may talk about later. But the point is, like, you'll see a lot of companies that have basically offered that kind of out of the box stuff. And but the latest trend or the next trend is going to be around agency because everybody else now has basically, even the most traditional platforms have adopted those three functions when you see them in any kind of demo. But we're now starting to see how do we actually get to do the work for us, as opposed to how do you help me do the work? How do I
Mm,
train it to do things? How do I build agents that are actually going to do things for me? And you know, the selection of who made the finalists this year, I think, is a good spectrum of late early stage to early second stage companies in terms of the trends that are being adopted.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great call.
yeah, I also was going to say is I think there's also firms that have or that have a new feature, right? It's not just brand new. I think that's worth mentioning as well, right? I think as part of your selection too.
It's the incumbents' game to lose. Like they've got business, right? I mean, I'd say XY is a little bit more unique. You tend to deal with younger, more, yeah, I'd say tech forward advisors, and that has proven to be a really good starting ground for a lot of companies who come wow you guys, and then use that your base as a foundation for elevating themselves into a more mature market. So you guys have, I've always said you're one of the early adopter places that people should look to go for newer tech. But make no mistake, anyone who's on that Kitsis list who has any form of market share worth noting is going to adopt all of this stuff to fight tooth and nail to keep their market share.
Yeah, and it's easier than ever to build specialized point solutions into your all-in-one now. Yeah, that's a good point. Just to speak briefly about, kind of what is this audience and how have we structured XYPN Live specifically for exhibitors. Um, Alan and Michael made the decision very early that at most of the conferences, the dominant exhibitors tend to be the mutual fund providers, the custodians, the insurance providers, what we call solutions providers.
Hmm.
The end client is paying the fee. They have deep coffers to pay a lot of money to be at these conferences. And while some of those are very important for the ecosystem, for these fee-for-service financial planning forward advisors, which is our audience, the XYPN network, there are these innovative solutions that are really built, many of them in the past homegrown from XYPN member firms or similar types of firms trying to scratch their own itch, solve their own problem. And if they're not coming from a culture of raising capital on an idea, having an extended beta and having quite a bit of money to get on these stages, then they may never really reach escape velocity if there's no platform for them. So
Hmm.
the way we structured the exhibit hall is very approachable exhibitor packages for innovative new companies, the Advice Tech Competition, the Tech Showcase, and just to expand on a point that you made, Amy. So yes, it's these newer companies. It's also new, separately priced uh, products from existing companies. So it doesn't have
Yes.
to be your company's brand new, but if you've rolled out something as a completely new offering, that qualifies as well.
I also think it plays to the strength of what Michael and Alan have shown year after year with the compensation survey of, it's the niche players starting out who are growing at a faster rate than everybody else after a couple of years of figuring it out. And everybody laments the size of the Kitsis map and how big it's gotten, but it's never been easier. And every year it gets easier to find that product that meets the need of your specific type of client, not the big generic, right? But the thing that meets the need of that one type of cohort. And the giving what you've done by giving this opportunity to companies under a certain threshold and new and out of the gate and innovative is, let's face it, those companies, you're not seeing someone saying, hey, I'm replacing Orion for all of this. Like no one's coming
Hmm.
in that at your level. That's a large enterprise solution. But are you getting like the Holista plans of the world launching here? Yes, you are. Are you getting companies that are specialized in certain cohorts of the marketplace or one specific vertical? Yes, you are. And that is, again, speaking to the entire, everything's self-reinforcing here, right? Like you have a younger audience growing alternative methodologies, leaning into niches and technology that supports all that. So it comes together very nicely.
Yeah. I also think is, you need to solve the problem people have. A lot of times technology, and I've seen it over the years, is, you know, you're trying to convince them that they need this thing. And if it's not like something that they need to solve or a problem they have or a friction they have in their business, it's kind of like, okay. So that's what, with when I look at these things like where's the friction and where does this solve and where does it ultimately create a better client and advisor experience, like with that lens on, is when you look at it from the client experience standpoint and truly the advisor experience standpoint, and what problem are you trying to solve that is hard for them to solve on their own. I think that's how, when I'm looking at technology, or is it's like what Jason was saying, is it something very unique, where when I think of, or again, like when I think about your past winners, current client solving texting, right?
Yeah.
Long-term care, water lily, something that isn't really being solved. So I think it's an important thing for people to understand, is like, what are we trying to solve here and where's the problem?
Yeah, and I'll actually go back and the question about trends and bring this back. The one thing just dawns upon me now is that I look at the selection of winners and also many of the applicants, and it is the big trend. One of the big trends I think for this year is efficiency. It's more about efficiency, but efficiency in different parts of your offering, right? It's not just one company trying to help you with paperwork processing better. There was a really broad selection of how AI is being brought in to create greater efficiencies, greater value propositions, but doing it across the board in almost everything advisors touch.
Yeah, that really comes through in our XYPN member benefit survey as well. In terms of categories folks are trying to solve, it really used to be growth. It was like 70% of advisors say they're trying to grow, they're willing to spend on growth. They don't necessarily know what tool to use for that. Just in the past couple of years, efficiency has actually eclipsed growth as the number one outcome that folks are trying to accomplish with at least with partner benefits with XYPN.
Yeah.
Uh,
But everybody wants to grow. And it's
yeah,
like,
that's it.
it's the panacea that no one, no matter what size you are, everyone struggles with a little,
But I also
with
think
growth.
it's a genie out of the bottle thing, right? Like I think everybody, if the last couple of years this is happening, oh, it just happens to coincide with Gen AI being a thing, right? So when you start to understand that the potential for this thing exists, that potential for greater efficiencies through AI exists, you start craving that and start saying you want help with that. Because let's face it, as of right now, it's still in, again, early stages of the second stage. It's too hard, right? Like I play around with like multi-agent teams I built and implement all kinds of other stuff. And this is not something that someone can just pick up and plug in stuff and go, right? So what we're really going to, again, later stage, and we're starting to see now, is going to be how do we get all those efficiencies that were being promised from a Gen AI, but as turnkey as possible?
Mm,
All right, with
absolutely.
that, I know we don't have a ton of time to talk about these companies, so I'm going to jump right in. Let's see. Are you seeing Slant CRM here on my screen?
You know, one
Yep.
idea, but we continue.
Yeah, I put them to the front.
The genie in the bottle.
A little bit of foreshadowing. So I have many thoughts. I'm not going to tee this up. I just want to hear you both riff. Tell us about Slant CRM. Maybe Amy, you would like to start.
You know, I, I've worked with hundreds of wealth firms, right? And CRMs are sort of like everyone knows they need to have them, and some people do really well with them, and some people really don't. So I think at the end of the day, you need something that is easy to use, that is intuitive to use as well, and that really solves the problem. You have a CRM to do a couple things. You have a CRM to help you grow. You have your CRM for your service model. You have your CRM CRM to make sure you have your outreach and that you understand the full picture and the relationships of your client. And so when I look at something like, an AI native CRM, they have the ability to, some of the challenges of the CRMs that are out there is they're built on a chassis that's hard to build on, right? And so you cannot innovate very, very quickly when you're built on a chassis that's hard to build on. You'll see this with a lot of the other incumbents. So to me, when I looked at Slant CRM, it has, everything really you think about the AI note taker is in there and it's AI forward. So I'm really excited about Slant CRM. I'm really looking forward to seeing the demo.
Yeah.
So
Jason?
I'm going to confess that when I hear the word AI native as the first description, my eyes roll really hard because I don't care. Like I think at the end of the day, we all care about the jobs to be done and the value proposition you're providing. And to
Mhm.
simply lead by saying you're AI native always makes me be like, okay, well, I don't really care. Um, and what I will say is that, CRM is going to go through quite the transformation in the next couple of years. No one really knows what it looks like in a world where data just starts to be sorted for you to some degree. But I will say that these guys came out right at the beginning. They nailed a lot of the out of the box use cases, right? Again, the entire extraction, generation, and querying, that was it. And it was one of these things where it's like, okay, you got a CRM, it's lightweight, and you're doing that. Let's see where this goes. And I think they've done a really good job in the short time they've been around at evolving this, right? There's a lot of focus. You can even see on these screens here on jobs to be done, emails, meetings, all built in to workflows that are AI driven. And even more recently, launching things like data gathering tools to replace some of the other tools out there. So they've been for us, they're a small, scrappy team that has been doing a really good job of evolving a new product in a new category and thinking through not holistically, like, hey, what does a CRM look like in 20 years because of AI? But like, how can we harness that power today and make it effective for advisors? And I think that's why it's resonated so well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that yeah, AI native, I think in this case does mean that, your CRM can actually do work. And
Yeah.
that's a breakthrough now. And they've really designed with that in mind. To your point, jobs to be done. What am I trying to accomplish? It's just a much more intuitive design in terms of full context of the client. Help me understand what I'm supposed to be working on today, get me ready for my meetings, send the email, assign the tasks, build a new workflow. It's just a very, very intuitive design with the advisor in mind. And they've really focused on it super intentionally. And this is, I think, really tempting for early stage companies that are getting a lot of traction, which Slant is, to start to court some enterprise opportunities or some broker dealer opportunities. But they've really held back from that. And have focused on the small to medium sized RIAs, serving them really well. I think they have an RIA in residence where someone comes and works in their office for like a month a year, and they just work really closely with them. So it's a really product
That's interesting.
oriented team.
Yeah. And but here's the thing, don't get me wrong, everybody wants the enterprise money because that's where the money is. But the independent individual advisor market is still very substantial. Like there's more turnover, but it's very substantial. And I think this product is very sticky for that market. So I think that they're very smart to worry about like, let's capture all this bottom of the pyramid that other companies are trying to move away from and really service their needs because that's what's going to resonate and that's what's going to make them succeed.
Yeah. And I'll go to is like you need to make it easy. That's it, 'cause especially when you're talking about smaller practices, right? They don't have time to go through a massive integration. They don't have, time to overthink all these things and build 100 workflows and all that stuff. So the more you can kind of make it easier to get going, easier to get, to do your business and not have to like think about the tech stack, the better. So that's where, I think that, that they have an advantage.
Agreed.
Yeah, we're really hearing that. I don't know if you're hearing the same thing, but the capacity constraints that come with, a pretty sort of early in your growth, right? If I get to 200 million, I'm doing really bespoke boutique investment management and financial planning. And by the way, everything I put in front of my client, they're running through ChatGPT and just sending me like a 40-page conversation. Say, what do you think about this? It's becoming a lot harder, I think, to deliver that kind of service as a solo or as a small team. And so any bit of efficiency that you can get is obviously very helpful.
I do love that ChatGPT is just a new Google for fact checking your advisor. But my first question when someone does that is, did you read it? And the
Yeah.
answer is usually no. And then the question becomes, what are you worried about? And then, it's you look, we're always going to be fact checked. And frankly, like it may be creating new obstacles for us and new time-consuming work, but so are the old articles that were just wrong. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I'll just share that again, going back to the XYPN annual tech benefits survey, we've never seen a company skyrocket from, unknown basically last September to in our top three requested partner benefits in under a year. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
that speaks to how they targeted that market quite well,
Yeah.
and they delivered on a value proposition.
Yeah. And I hear they're working well with others as far as like integration goes and makes it
Mhm.
so because again that like trying to get integrated and doing that, especially as a solo practitioner or a smaller firm, yeah, the easier the firm this, CRM can make it to work with your other technology, the
Yeah.
better. So
Yeah, but
Yeah.
they're also replacing certain other vendors in the stack, but being smart about not trying to create an all-in-one really quickly. They're really targeting stuff around data ingest, which is exactly the wheelhouse they need to be playing in a AI CRM space.
yep.
I agree.
Yep.
I have heard it's almost a 100% replacement. New folks who adopt Slant are dropping their point solution AI note taker, AI operating system, efficiency tool. That functionality they feel is really built in and better served in one place. Have you heard anything similar or counterpoint?
I think it speaks to the job to be done being the most important thing, right? So I think where some of the note takers are seeing is they keep on adding, don't get me wrong, they're adding integration, that's valuable, but then they're adding other functionality around metrics or other stuff like that. And the reality is people want to take notes. So like if this is the old 80/20 rule. 80% of the reason people have some of these other things is to accomplish the one thing. So frankly, if you can take notes and maybe you're not as good as Jumper's Ox, but you're integrated and you give me some sort of value proposition in the integration, you're gonna get people from that. If your data acquisition tools and questionnaires are not as robust as Precise FP, but it's integrated into the workflow more deeply and saves me time and effort while accomplishing the same data, most of the same data gather, you're gonna get a lot of people switching over. So it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, I've heard their new forms feature, which I think just dropped, is really successful as well.
Yep.
Okay,
All
moving
right.
on. If I switch to my notes, can you all see these?
Yep. Caddy. No,
Can
not
see
no, Caddy.
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 Is that what we need?
Good. All right. Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, next up is Caddy, and so I would describe this as a user-friendly agent builder, basically. And again, I'll let you all comment, but maybe Jason, you can
I'm
start
going
with.
to start with Jason because,
Fair
he's
enough. So, so look, I've seen a couple things like this. This is like we'll call this the next generation of Zapier, right? And I think we
oh,
saw
see,
the
that's
first,
what
yeah, like it was next
yeah.
generation of Zapier because we have AI agency in it, and the first company to do that was a company called N8N, and has done quite well around that. The difference being twofold. A, this is built specific for our industry, so therefore context is more clear, and therefore it's more likely to get things done. And that's not what really caught my attention. What caught my attention was the fact that they are bringing a easy to adopt version of AI skills and workflow building to to this industry. And what I mean by skills is that if anyone's ever played with Claude or ChatGPT and trained it on how to do something, you can build a skills repository or file that basically tells the agent, "Oh, I'm telling you to build this report. Go to that skill," and it tells it how to do it every time. So it's a catalog of how to do things.
Mm.
So what impressed me about Caddy was they had the same functionality. I could hit a button, flip over to a screen, do my workflow, take data from a certain document sitting in SharePoint or Google Drive, manually populate it into Google, just do my normal work, record that, and then it would train the AI agents on how to do that itself by reviewing the actual workflow. So it's really closed the loop nicely on something that was a little bit more technically difficult, which was skills building and building the agents by simply being able to record a video while you do it and then turn that into an AI workflow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just found out about this recently, and I'm not an advisor, right? I'm not sitting in, but I am a business owner, a small business owner trying to use AI capabilities to improve my business, right? And anywhere I can. And there's only so many times I can call Jason in a week, because he does have
I never trained you. Okay.
yeah, exactly. He has his own business to run. But what I find it interesting is kind of what, not to dumb it down, but really at the end of the day is I don't want to become an AI, engineer, right? Like I don't. I understand the benefits of it. And I want it to work for me. And so to me is that the more that it can, you know, take out the having to learn what all of this is, right? And how to do all this. Not to say you can't, you do be dumb about it, but you know, you've got a business to run. So and for a lot of these smaller firms too is, you know, just right now, this is how I do my process, and I need to create my rather than people want to throw out your processes, redo it, redo your segmentation, do all this stuff, right? Great, I'd love to do that when I have time. Right now, I'd like to create this efficiency. So in my mind, if this can create efficiency quicker and get you from A to Z faster, the better. So that's what I thought was interesting when I took a look at it as someone who, again, I deal with a lot of AI and these big AI companies, but at the same time, I'm a small business owner trying to figure it out for myself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you've actually represented two interesting like archetypes. Jason, I don't know if you caught this, but in a handful of the applications, they really felt like builder tools. I think at least one of them had a side panel full of HTML that you could, grab and
Yeah.
put somewhere else. And it feels like that's a very innovative early adopter archetype that wants to tinker. They want to do everything they want it to do. But I think to get to that point of even just kind of like a decent amount of early adoption, it needs to be easy. I think for
It needs to
most
be easy.
advisors, yeah, I don't want to learn a whole new skill.
Yeah.
I want to press record and then be done with it, and have that run in the background.
And that's a hard job for companies to basically do because they get lost in the weeds of what it is they know and assume too
Mm.
much of the general population when it comes to what it is.
Understands it. Yeah.
Exactly. And I have this thing that I every company I advise, it's very simple. When I see something too complex, I'm like, your grandmother, you just failed the test. If your grandmother can't work this thing, it's too complicated. Now, maybe that's the extreme example. Maybe your grandmother can't work anything. But my point is that it's an archetype for a layperson who's not sophisticated with technology, who basically maybe can click around and call their grandkids. You know, I can tell you right now that most people, like I'm not as much as I think Zapier's great, I'm not a big fan of sitting there trying to sort out the handouts and everything else. It drives me insane. I never really adopted it that much. I've liked what I've done with skills because I can record things and basically train an AI to do something, but it's not, depending on how you do it, overly visual or overly accessible for the masses.
Yeah.
This is what I was talking about earlier about taking the promise of automation and AI and making it as button push as possible. This is a really good implementation of basically saying, look, you're not going to go through all this, nor should you. It's a lot if you want to. We have it, but hey, want to record your screen while you're doing your work and then give us that recording and then we'll do it for you? Back to what Amy said. I don't have
Yeah.
time to program it. Program it for me.
It's that, and it seems to be like that sort of somewhere that between the automation, you'd see with, UiPath before and like a Zapier, right? So it's somewhere between like screen scrapey technology and again that what you said, the Zapier. So but I as a user, I don't need to know that, right? All I want to know is it easy to use? Can it get me to A to B quicker? And can I, again, move back to taking care of my clients and growing my business?
Yeah. Caddy
That's
was a
the
good name. I'll say that much. It
Yeah.
literally is, it's literally the idea is just that you tell it what you need, it's going to hand you the club.
yeah.
I like that branding. I'm guilty of building a company, a technology that would it required a whole new skill set for the advisor. And for those that really wanted to learn it, they loved it. And everyone
Yeah.
else like this seems like a lot of work.
Yeah. I know I see it a lot too, see these really sophisticated planning tools that are out there right now. And I have to tell them like this takes like someone has to think differently about how they think about this to be able to use this. And I go, that's a big, big leap. So for me, looking at something like this, if I could be in my office and here's how I want to do this and it can take it on and I don't have to learn, all of this, fantastic.
The real question is, can you still name your agents after X-Men? Uh,
Yes.
I don't know that they can, but I mean, or give them the avatars and I don't know,
it's a new feature at
or the
least.
personalities. I'm working on something there, don't worry.
Okay,
Love
let's
it.
see. Next up is a company I'm really excited about called Wealth Reach. I'll give just a bit of background on
Yeah,
this one because their
that'd be good.
origin story is cool. Um, David is one of the co-founders. He was an advisor. He left being a financial advisor to start a marketing agency for RIAs. One of the firms that he was working with was an XYPN member, Jerry Barrasso of United Financial Planning Group. Jerry's son as a CEO of a tech company, left that tech company to go work at dad's firm and teamed up with David, and they just grew the heck out of this firm. And their focus was really on organic growth, just sort of we've talked about growth already, sort of the broken growth ecosystem of solutions. So what they really focused on was websites that work.
Hmm.
And just a bit of background on how it works. Basically, they have a very bespoke process in terms of onboarding and understanding your firm, but they can build you a website relatively affordably, not based on a template. It's custom to you. It highlights what you're good at. But then most importantly, they call these living websites. It's constantly looking to see how am I ranking in my area? How's my SEO? Do I rank for keywords? Am I appearing in agentic search? Finding opportunities there and in creating content and reworking your website 24/7 behind the scenes. Of course, also always with compliance in mind and human in the loop. So I think this is a really accessible website opportunity and growth opportunity for regular firms, again, with a focus on organic, which we know is kind of the most important. Amy, what are your thoughts on?
Yeah. Again, solving a problem that's a pain, right? Again, I'll just say again, as a small business owner, trying to create a website, yeah, you could do it in AI and but like the AI, that's the SEO, the GEO, like how am I supposed to keep up with all this? So, in my mind is solving problems. People have growth problems. People want to be found, right? You want to be found and and how to be able to, have get growth and be found is that you need to create content to be able to drive business there. And I love the idea of a living website. Every time you want to do something new or post something, you kind of got to go off and do something. So this idea that can live and breathe and really, do the work for you, I think is really is interesting to me because I think people are trying to, again, when you look at the people that are this is for, it's for people that are on the smaller businesses, really having to wear lots of hats, wanting to grow, but having to service clients and do everything else. So in my mind is, I think it's an interesting technology solution. And again, it's solving friction. So it's solving something we all know is a friction point.
Yeah, and I will say that, I mean, you can see the evolution of all this going back, right? You had like custom built websites, then you had the likes of Squarespace and like Wix come out, which made it easy to throw up a website. Then you had the likes of 20 over 10 and advisor websites who brought that sort of thing to the advisor market and then augmented that with content. Now, this is where, when I say I roll my eyes when I hear AI native, they answer the question of what does an AI native version of those look like, right? It is not just a website template or builder. It is basically embedding all best practice, all compliance, all the facets and aspects of the things that still required heavy lifting from the user in a traditional template. And you talk about, look, one of the things that is behind the scenes here is the ability to generate your posts and whatever utilizing artificial intelligence. I'm sure there's various training aspects of that, but you could literally, you're not going to fully put your website on 100% autopilot and just let it go and let it bring things in. I mean, let's face it, when it comes to organic growth, what everybody wants is people just to walk in and hand them money, full stop.
Yeah.
There's no magic genie machine that basically has people hand and walk you do that, right? But when it comes to the online website presence thing, which is a fundamental cornerstone of marketing, like this is getting as close to the set it and forget it button as you can help at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. There
We're
was
giving
another
leverage, again, it's about leverage, time leverage, right?
there was another applicant that was a really excellent dashboard of website analytics and things that you should do and surfacing those ideas. But the problem is you have to go do all that stuff. You spend all of your time building a website, even if it's easier than it used to be. I still can't navigate WordPress. Uh, but
Well, and that's it. It goes back to the community. It's the XYPN community. Now, again, Jason and I have the opportunity to look at a lot of technology through our businesses, and some fit for some occasions, right? But when you're thinking about the lens of XYPN, like to me, this will fit because you're trying to do a lot with a little, and you need as much leverage as possible.
yeah, great point. Yeah, typically we're launching at 60% of all new members are launching firms from scratch.
Yeah.
So just starting from, zero clients, zero revenue. Another 40% are coming with existing businesses. But yeah, generally XYPN members they are trying to build a sustainable practice,
Yeah.
up to maybe over 5 advisors. Many want, to be completely at capacity and manage 30 clients and live a great life, run the practice that they want. So different pathways there, but you're right, it's typically the solutions that we're surfacing are generally built for the advisor slash owner as opposed to the home office compliance
Yes.
enterprise. And that's just, it takes time to build both those things and find those relationships. So when they focus on this type of audience, it's a great call. It's really meant for our members. All right, I think I'm going to keep us moving here.
Yep.
Let's see. All right, next up is Sage Content. This is another cool origin story that I'll share.
Yeah.
Uh, you all might know Nate and Nick. Nate Hoskins is an XYPN member. He's a financial planner, CFP, owns a practice. Nick is also owns his own practice. I think this may be outdated, but they used to be the number one and number three most followed
Yeah.
CFPs on social media. Is a cool claim to fame. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe 2-ish years ago, they built Sage Content, or no, I'm sorry, not Sage Content. What was it? N2 Content Marketing, using short form videos, which is how they got so much traction, teaching advisors how to, record and post short form videos that really work, and can, create a lot of audience. Sage Content is really the tech platform built around all of that consulting and individual experience they have, where it's getting to know the advisor, it's building scripts, it's building all the descriptions and meta descriptions, posting for you, with compliance and all that sort of monitoring built in. So really like this one. Amy, what are your thoughts on Sage?
Well, as someone who has to create content a lot for, again, through my own business, it takes a lot. I mean, you have to come up with the idea and then you do your video and then you think about, okay, is this going to hit my audience correctly? And is it my voice? And so like I hold on to things because I'm like so afraid that something isn't going to sound like me or so, so what for me, I think about again, going back to the advisors of running a business and taking care of your clients and running the practice and all the things, and then trying to get, content out there. So to me is as long as it stays true to who you are and it gives you leverage, fantastic. And everyone knows that video is the new orange or black or whatever it is. And people know that video is where, is what is attracting people. So to me, I think it's an interesting intersection. Again, it gets to that point like how many solutions do you want to have? But to me, it's we all know video is super important, and if you can get there quicker and compliantly, then bravo.
Can
How
I
about you,
double click
Jason?
on?
What do you think?
Well, look, I'll say this much. I'm not gonna, no one can debate. Like, I mean, basically, video is the most powerful medium that there is. And there's I love content marketing. I love content marketing because it remains an advantage for anyone willing to do it because it is a pain in the butt. I mean, it's twofold.
Yeah,
The two reasons why people don't do this is A, the amount of work, which I'll get into in a second, and B, this is a lesson for everyone listening. It's what you expect on the other end. Do not expect to be number one or number three or anything like that. I got friends with 500,000 YouTube followers, right? I'm not aiming for that. Like, if I get that, great. But the reality is, if my core business generates a couple of solid clients a year from that, the ROI is already substantial. That's the goal.
yeah.
The goal is like, so frame yourself properly. So
Hmm.
realistic, okay? But let's go back to why people don't do this. The pain in the butt. Let's consider
Yeah.
the value. Let's consider what has to happen. Idea generation for the content, scripting, then run the compliance approval, then the actual filming, editing, graphics on top
Branding.
of that. Yeah, it's like basically, yeah, the posting, and then eventually, and all the metric follow through, right? All of that is a massive pain. And what I like about this, and another company I advise is doing something similar, is the fact that they basically said, like, look, we can empower the entire value chain, with the exception of you standing in front of a camera. Like, you're still gonna have to do that. Maybe we'll get to avatars at some point, but
Hmm.
and there's all kinds of data already showing that real people resonate better than AI avatars. But let's not get to that.
Yeah.
What is that if AI can enable every step of the way and get you from the idea, give you ideas, give you the scripts, lets you just check off along the way to the point where, okay, I just got to shoot, and then even help you with the editing or pass that off to someone else, whatever you want to do, and get it down. Like that's the goal. I mean, people ask me about my podcast and how much time, how I find time. I spend less than an hour a week on it, right? I literally, people approach me to be on it. I book them, I record it, I drop a file into a folder, and then I forget it's there because my staff takes care of the rest of it. I've set up an entire apparatus with people and a bunch of other stuff. Some of my video stuff, same thing. It's like I've got an entire agent team now that works on the dissemination of that and will eventually be publishing it. So, like, this is hitting that easy button for people. It's okay, you're going to give me this entire piece where all I got to do is show up in front of the camera and record what I'm being told to. Maybe not, quite that extent, but pretty close to it.
I need to hire your AI agent team.
Then
It
do it.
takes
So,
it takes me forever to put stuff out.
I'm curious. You both do quite a lot of content creation.
Yeah.
I think this is less of a risk with this platform, definitely. So.
Oh, yeah.
But are we putting out quality content still? Are we just awash in content? Yeah. Is a platform like this and other platforms that are available to you, are they diluting what is special about what you put out to the world?
I think as long as you control it, right? You know, we all use AI to help us with content, right? It's not that, you know, please, if whatever you're going to do, just don't have it write everything for you. You know, there is truly AI slop and it's embarrassing. When you see people using, the negative, like contrasting language and certain words, but as long as it's you, it has to be your voice. It has to be your value proposition, right? It has to be resonant of like who you are. But if you can make the, that whole process faster and easier for people, and again, for people to find you and hear your voice. If people don't hear your voice and they can't see you, then, you know, you might as well just be, sending emails out where that no one ever opens. So to me, I just think is, you gotta, if you can make it easier to get there, as long as you make sure that you are the human in the loop and that it is truly your voice.
yeah, and the way to solve for that, Amy, is to train the AI off your voice in general. So I've got a
Yeah.
voice file. It's pretty damn accurate at this point. I will say I'm pretty impressed by what it's putting out.
Wow. Yeah.
But that said, this kind of loops back to a couple of things. So to answer the question directly, is that like I remember when I first saw Gen AI, I thought, oh boy, supernova of like slop and generic crap. But it actually, to me, is the opportunity to differentiate beyond that, right? And what I mean by that altogether is like imagine every advisor adopted something like this. Most advisors struggle with a value proposition. They struggle to not sound generic, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Congratulations, you're just throwing more water into the ocean of generic content.
Yeah.
That's not going to resonate, right? Back to the ethos of some of the stuff you guys espouse at XYPN, pushing people into niches and everything else. What matters to people, what resonates with people is the content that speaks to their specific need. I remember years ago writing stuff for a newspaper across Canada, and basically, like, I did 3 articles and I got no leads from it. And I get a fourth, and I got five, and they all said the same thing. I read that and it was me, right? You address their specific need, their specific problem, you target it, you put that content out. Not only is it easier to get that content discovered by people looking for it, not only
Hmm.
lower cost for paid ads, but the reality is it converts better. So the most important thing about content is have something worth saying, not to everyone necessarily, but to the people that you're trying to serve. And if you do that, you don't have to worry about other people crowding out your space.
Yeah, I
Love
love it.
that.
Yeah, great takeaways from two content experts. And Nick Meyer, who's founder, and in the webinar says they have a great system for on platform that ensures each piece of content fits the voice of each individual. I also think video is
MD.
naturally very personal. And another thing that I haven't seen a lot of these other companies so far, but is very true of Sage, is there's a service aspect behind this.
Yeah.
There's a team that's
They
there
can do
to
the
help
editing,
you.
right? Too.
Totally. Yeah, which is
There has to be. There's too much to video from down to coaching and people just getting on camera. Yeah, you have to have a human touch on this.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna keep cruising here.
Yep.
Canyon Ops is an interesting one. I'll say the focal point of Canyon Ops, from my understanding of their pitch, was, what keeps advisors up at night? It's, did I do the thing I told my client I was going to do, following through on commitments. And they've built a platform that's really around your service model. So you can design your service models within the platform. What are each of the commitments that come with that service model? Build proposals, track and make sure manage all the workflows and tasks, make sure those are done. And at the end of the year, show the client everything you did, knowing that you didn't miss anything. Jason, how did this one sit with you? Feels like a bit of a different category.
And it wasn't overly the most sophisticated tech lift, but where it resonated was that it dealt with a legitimate problem
Mhm.
in a very clean and simple, straightforward way. So that is a compliment. I hope they take it as such. Is that look, everybody likes to think they're different. At the end of the day, this business is not jazz. This is basically process, right? The reality is that we are trying to do things over and over again for people, make sure we do everything for them. And to date, most systems for doing this have been embedded in CRMs or
Mhm.
like, other tools like say an Airtable or Monday.com, which is a little bit more service oriented. But what I really liked about this was quite literally what appeared to be the simplicity of the UX. It was I can create different service tiers and categories, create a different task I'm doing, check it off to include it in that lump, assign people to that, and then be able to track it on an aggregate and individual level. And it's just built for that purpose. It is just built for tracking those jobs to be done. And the simplicity of it, I think, was truly the value proposition. It's we can tackle this really well and give you confidence that you know where you stand with every client on everything you're supposed to be doing for them.
Yeah, what I like about it is, I work with a lot of wealth firms on creating your value proposition and creating your ideal client and creating in segmenting. And what does it mean to segment your clients? And if you do segment your clients, how do you actually deliver on that segmentation of like who gets what and when they get it and how they get it? The other thing I also, I actually built in the past was this when I was at Focus Financial Partners was what I call this timeline of what I've done for you. Because I've thought a lot of advisors at the end of the year saying, "Oh, I did all this stuff for you," right? And then they put it into a Word file and they like cobble it together. So to be able to kind of take this idea of service delivery and put it into a sequence and it helps them define it because a lot of advisors struggle with what should I be providing to each of these tiers and how do I follow through on those things, and what happens, it slips a lot, and so you don't really segment your clients, you don't really give those like it's hard to do this, believe it or not. It's like seems simple, but it is hard to do it. So to me, what I really liked about this is it does a couple of things. It gives this, again, the ability to service your tiers, to make sure you're following through on these, and then to actually be able to go back to your client and say, here is the service that I have delivered to you and the value that I have given you. Now, giving somebody a big task list of all the stuff, that isn't necessarily like the most value. And so I like that it combines the two with the idea of creating a better client experience. That's what I see from it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, and it's really polished too. It looks really nice in terms of again the proposals and that value delivery at the end of the year. So I think you're
Yeah.
right. This one feels more client focused than maybe some of the other finalists in the group here.
And
Uh,
it doesn't seem like it's because it's called a practice management tool.
yeah, yeah,
But the practice part of it is to create a better experience or and a well-defined experience. Here is what's going to happen during our life cycle of our working together. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and then you came back, guess I did all this for you, right? And so I think that's what's interesting about it.
Yeah, the fact that it just puts all the jobs to be done in one place in a clean client, client friendly viewpoint. Whether you use it with the client or not is irrelevant. But the reality is if
Yeah.
you do, you can put something in front of them that doesn't look overly mechanical and that is simple and easy to understand.
Yeah. And again, you have to look at the lens of who it's for, right? It's for the XYPN team. And
yep.
so, I'm thinking about, got the smaller business that you're wearing a lot of hats. And so to be able to kind of have something that is pretty well segmented for you, I think the only thing I would think about is it gets a little blurry with CRM and this and other tools, right? But but if it can get you there quicker and it can get you create an efficient experience. Creating efficiency is going to create a growth, and creating a great client experience is also going to create growth. So
But
I
I think
find it
that's actually
interesting.
its strength. I think it's pulling out this one core value proposition from where it wasn't sitting so well elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay.
Simply saying, I'm going to replace all these five other things. Like, don't do that. Like, nail this, and if I swivel chair over to to other device, other things, but I'm getting an overall like better experience, greater confidence, better accuracy, all of that. Like it's worth not trying to make it all happen in one place.
Yeah. Back to your point, Amy, about practice management too. It's hard to be disciplined when you
Yeah.
just have a few clients or you're, 20 clients, you have a million things that you're doing, but also I think our members, going back to audience, they tend to be givers. And when someone's
Yes.
sitting in front of you and they need something and maybe they don't really, you don't know if you can pitch them on it in terms of can they afford your fees, to really map out here are my service models and here's what they cost just allows you to have a lot of discipline in how you build your firm.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a slippery slope, right? You find yourself, you just do, when you do everything for everyone, then you can't really deliver for everyone because
Yeah,
and so you just start to get a death by a thousand paper cuts and you don't and then then you got to call me because you're underwater.
totally. Yeah. That's a good lesson just from this webinar in general. If you take nothing else, yeah, have a service model, stick to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Our last finalist today is Hazel, specifically Hazel's financial planning agent. I don't have any great screenshots in here to share. I did take a couple from the webinar that they shared or the pitch demo that they put in. And essentially, this is the latest in Hazel's suite of agents. So there's the base Hazel platform, tax planning agent, and now a financial planning agent. And this is, I think, in many ways, the reimagining of how we do financial planning. I'm used to a cash flow based model and e-money or right capital. Many use more of a goals based, but we're getting into this paradigm of like, I don't need to go through the 10 steps. Let me get to the point of what's important for the client and create a presentation that really looks like what they want to see and what they care about. What are your thoughts on this one, Amy?
Well, I mean, I think wasn't Altruist and Jason one of the finalists for
It was, yeah,
that's
28,
it.
if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. Look how far he's gone, right?
No kidding.
Um, again, I am not a financial planner, but what I do is I help firms select what they need and from a technology people platform process, right? And I've seen everything from every single solution that is out there, and there's a lot of great solutions out there. At the end of the day, you're working with planners. This is what they do. They know how to do the planning. So if you can get them to be able to do the planning in a way that's easier and intuitive and not so burdensome, right? Because I know from working with lots and lots of wealth firms is the process of planning and the gathering and everything that has to go into it is a lot of work, right? It's a lift. And so to me, if you can get them there quicker and I think that the things are changing, like the world is changing and planning is changing, at least in my mind. So I think it's a pretty exciting, they have a little bit of advantage because they happen to, have a big team behind them, but I think it's a super innovative direction. So how about you,
Yes.
Jason?
So I am a planner.
I know.
I've also had a front row seat to the development of more than one planning software over the years.
Oh,
And I think, if I zoom out and then zoom back in specifically to answer this question, first off, I think, what Altruist has done with Hazel in general, is go beyond note taking, and they're kind of re-envisioning what an all-in-one looks like for the AI world, right? And you're seeing more and more functions roll out across that. The question becomes when you go so broad, how deep can you go, right? And the broader you go, the harder it is to go deep on anything.
hmm.
And is that a positive or negative? And the answer is it's both, right? It's a very big positive to some and a very big negative to others. And people get to choose to what degree they value that value proposition. So if I'm the most intense cash flow planner dealing with like advanced corporate stuff and taxation, am I going to be saying I'm going to use this tomorrow? The answer is no. But that's me, right? Like that's not the full market. Is there an enormous value proposition by the fact that the note taker, the emails, the meeting information, the custodial information is all living in one infrastructure now, and being able to produce something like this, which is of value to a segment of the marketplace with very little uplift and work from the advisor? Absolutely, there is.
Yeah.
But it's like, respectfully, as much as I love a lot of the guys running these all-in-ones, look at their satisfaction rates. You can't make everybody happy, right?
Yeah.
And right now, this is showing us what a new all-in-one can look like, and it's fantastic that it can do all this. But what you're going to find, what I think is going to happen is people are going to opt into, okay, this gets me for this segment of clients, but for this segment of clients, I need this software, or
Yep.
this is not my market. And people are going to decide,
Yep.
is this a value? 1000% it is. Is it, but there is no category killer solution in all of this. There's no one software that meets everybody's needs. But I think that what they've done here in terms of how they weaved it into the overall offering was a very smart decision.
I agree. My time at Focus Financial Partners, and we had 90 plus firms that were part of it, and we had people that were, there was Navaplan back in the day that was like really, really, really good, deep technology, deep planning, but it was like the worst technology ever. Sorry. Sorry if I want to get into it, but it was really hard to work with, right? And but people were just wed to it. Like they're like, don't take away my blanket, right? And so it just like what Jason was saying is absolutely true. There's different levels of complexity. You're seeing this in other planning solutions that are out there. So they, one of the things I've said over my career is some all-in-one serves none, right? But I'm changing that a little bit, because I don't know if it's the advance of AI, but it seems like a little bit easier to be an all-in-one because you can build faster, I guess. So, but
Yeah.
I definitely think it's for the people, the only the people that do the planning will understand what their needs are. I would say, and so I think it's going to work for some, and like what Jason was saying, there's going to be people that are just kind of wed to their old things. But again, I think it's very innovative.
Yeah, I also think it's potentially market expanding when we think about this, right? So like if you can again, we're all going to quote the Kits' 10-hour benchmark on creating a financial plan start to finish. And if Hazel's got this thing down to, okay, we already have all this information on you. Now we just got to round it out. And then I got something of value for you. And maybe planning wasn't a big part of my practice before, or the client wasn't big on doing comprehensive planning, but now I can give them something of value within the context of all that. That's a
Mhm.
net win for society. Like that's legitimately a net win for any of those clients. So
Yeah,
I'm all for tools that will, even if they're not going to be able to deal with the corporate sale and the state freeze and all the trusts and stuff like that, that still provide value to the masses, right? And do so as efficiently as possible. So this is again a net win and a good leveraging of the technology that they put in place to date.
Yeah, I'm a techno optimist, so
I like that.
I think that what we'll find is my hypothesis is that altruist tax and altruist planning are a little early, and there's two things. Number one is trust, what's happening behind the scenes, how do we get to these numbers? And the other is like, as if you're a financial advisor and you do deep planning, your tool is kind of your medium. It's like if I'm a painter, I don't really want to do sculpting. And so you have to see a real benefit to switching to a new modality of how I deliver planning advice. But I do think that for the efficiency reason, because the context is all there, should
Yeah,
continue to digest that and broaden that amount of data they're ingesting. I do think it can actually be more detailed and deeper planning. In e-money, nothing against them. There are a set of reports, and those are the ones you get. But I can ask this type of tool all kinds of questions that could be much
yeah,
detailed.
Yeah. But I will say, having had a front row seat to both financial planning and other softwares, there's domain specific knowledge that is really deep, especially around corner cases, that is going to be really hard for anyone who's not specializing in it to duplicate. I think, if I'm advising these guys, the future for them is you want to have this as the layer one, knock yourself out. But is there a world where you pipe into someone else's MCP and hand off the complex stuff and bring back in through a partnership and bring that back into your interface? I think that's the smarter move long run.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, they have the resources in the team, but yeah, speed to market, I think the
yeah,
the partnership approach is interesting.
Well,
yeah.
everyone's got resources in teams, but they don't have resources in teams to be the best in class at 12 different things, and every all-in-one has proven
Yeah.
that.
Well, and I think though, but I'm a big Ultras fan. I love the innovation right behind it. To me is you've got to start somewhere, right? And so when you can see how quickly this was able to be kind of built and like to me is like the future is pretty bright because once you start to get those domain expertises on those edge cases, like how hard is it? I don't know. I don't know how hard it is to build that, but to me, if you come with a good foundation and make it easier to get there. But again, we're talking about financial planners, so this is a little bit of a, what do you call it? It's like sweet spot. You know, will they adopt this or not? I'm not sure.
So yeah, and still in I think beta, but maybe right at live release, but it's pretty early.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
good. Yeah, still not fully out there.
okay. Yeah, I know we're at time. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is really cool. If you want to see these companies in action, join us at XYPN Live September 29th through October 1st in San Diego. It's going to be fun. We'll be right by the bay. Amy will be there. I'm still trying to convince Jason to come. I think he's working on a schedule. But this has been a lot of fun. Any closing thoughts as we kind of wrap it up?
Now, I just think it's the most exciting time I've been in wealth technology. It's like every day I'm like, what's going to happen next? So I'm really excited to see the whole XYPN team.
Agreed.
Great. And I'll just add, I'll add to Amy, yes, things are moving fast. If you're not if you're not me or her, you're probably a little overwhelmed by it all. We get overwhelmed by it ourselves. But the one thing that you should take away with great solace is that it's never been easier to service the specific type of client that you want to provide deep value to. And that's only going to get easier.
That. Cool. Well, thank you both so much. Great to see you, Amy. Great to see
Nice
you,
to see you.
Jason. Yeah, thanks
Well,
everyone for joining, and we'll
we'll
see you in
see you
San
in September.
Yeah. All right.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.